So, you have a local, a state, and a national president right here. What are the things you always wanted to know but didn't ask? Number one is we need less people on the outside telling us what we ought to do. What you want to do is, no, we'll decide what we ought to do because we have the expertise there.
Mr. Valdez, Chairman of the School Board of Hillsborough County. You know, when we talk about NICLB, or No Child Left Behind, and now ESEA and the reauthorization, we're in limbo right now. What is it that collaboratively, besides the local, but as far as the state and the national representatives are going to be talking about that, and what are going to be the wish lists of changing that law, and when do you see that possibly happening?
When they came out with their blueprint, to me, I talked about the good news versus the bad news. The good news was that they said we need to get rid of this AYP. We need to get rid of these high-stakes standardized tests. The bad news was, the other good news, they said we need a new second generation of assessments, multiple majors, broad, or we said yes. The bad news is they don't have those assessments yet, and so they want to carry, in the blueprint at least, carry over the same two tests. We've got to really work on that. We know the impact, how it's narrowed the curriculum, but even worse, the educational practice that has evolved into school districts across the country, and we know why. I mean, when you put that much pressure based on a single test score, you have to do certain things, and they're not good for kids. Another area where, to me, the good news was they talked about the need for a broad curriculum, not so narrow a focus. Bad news again, though, since we don't have new assessments, we stay with the two, which will continue this overemphasis on math and reading. Good news that they said we need to stop micromanaging. We need to be strict on goals, flexible on the how. I don't think we have that yet. But I do understand that Secretary Duncan sees students who are in chronically underperforming schools. As I listen to his speeches and read what he says, he really sees them in the same category as other students who are served by federal programs that are underserved. For example, IDEA, special education, kids of migrant workers, English language learners, right? And so he sees kids in chronically underperforming schools that the federal government has a responsibility to give clear direction to change that.
In regards to Race to the Top, what are the awards, the challenges, and do you think the money that was given to Race to the Top would ever be just given to the states to spend like we need to?
A long time ago in my teaching career, somebody asked me if I'd ever read Alfie Kohn's book, and one of them is Punished by Rewards. And it's an interesting look, and I brought it to my department, and I said, I want you to read this book, and I said, I don't want to argue whether he's right or wrong. He makes his theory is that competition does not enhance quality. It enhances winning. And that may not be through development of skills. And he uses examples from everything from little kids doing art projects to professional football players. But what he talks about is that in competition, the positive that you receive for those who get it is dwarfed by the negative of those who don't. And so during this last few days, I've been reading the press clippings. What I read from New Jersey and Colorado is their anger at not being selected is probably higher than your elation at being one of the 10. And I thought, see, if he's right, then what we're doing is we're setting ourselves up for failure. Because when you have a competitive model, by pure definition, everyone, quote, can't win or can't get the resources they need. And then, as I mentioned, to do this right now, when states aren't, it's really hard to think about how to be innovative and to change things and make them for the better when a whole lot of our states are really looking at survival. I mean, you know, we can't have our democracy without taxes. And I know if you ask the question, do you want to pay more taxes? I think most people say no. On the other hand, do you say, do you like public libraries? Do you like roads? National defense? I mean, in a democratic society, that is what we use our resources for the common good of people. So,
what help can we expect here in Florida from NEA this fall as we battle to protect our class sizes?
This district, they totally by random selected students, totally by random selected teachers, And the only variable between the experimental group and the control group was class size K through 3. At the end of the 3rd grade, these students then went into 4th grade and nothing was done differently for any of these students ever again. So the only variable that was altered was class size K through 3. And they followed these same group of students for over 20 years. By every measure you can come of success, high school graduation, enrollment in college, graduation from college, less incarceration, and right down the line, they exceeded their peers in all measures. So we know that it makes a difference, especially in those lower grades. We don't have that kind of research on the upper grades because it's so difficult to get it. Florida was one that, what a great job you did. And yes, that needs to be protected.
If you read the Constitution literally, plus the Supreme Court's guiding advice when they heard it and put it on the ballot the first go around, those numbers that are in the Constitution are really budgeting goals for the state. The state has to budget for 18 kids for every K through 3 class. That does not mean, according to the Constitution, that there can only be 18 children in that room. They wrote the implementation bill so strict to actually get us where we are today. I mean, this is all deliberate. You know, you've got to remember, the governor at the time did not like what we did. The legislature has hated it, and they have tried to derail it over and over. This is just another one. This year, they didn't send the money to the districts to implement the final stage of class size, to create the chaos that is going on right now so that parents will go to the polls on November 2nd and vote to change it. Instead of doing what would be right, which would be building the flexibility, because some schools do need relief. You've got to, you know, if you build a new school and subdivisions pop up overnight, the school becomes overcrowded, you got to build a new school, and you're always chasing the population that's moving. We've got to have some flexibility so that when all of a sudden the population of the school explodes, you're able to do it. This constitutional amendment doesn't provide the flexibility. It changes the numbers from 3 to 5 kids up, and it cuts the funding. And that's what this is about. It's designed to save the state money. That's why we're in court, to challenge whether it's on the ballot or not in the correct words. Because Florida law is fairly clear that whatever's on the ballot has to be comprehensible, has to be telling you the truth, and everybody, the average person has to understand it. And we don't believe that that constitutional amendment that'll be on the November 2nd ballot meets any of that criteria.
435 people in the House of Representatives, and another 100 in the Senate. That's 535 people. That's it. Out of over 300 million people in America, there are 535 who will decide what the next reauthorization of ESEA looks like. NEA has 6,000 members per member of Congress. 6,000. Now, I would think that if you had every person hearing from 6,000 people, we could make a difference. And you know, there is nothing in the history of our nation that has ever been accomplished without collective action. That is who we are. That is what we believe in. It's not some union value alone. It's an American value that if you want things different, you need collective action. And I think we ought to just do it, whether it's about ESEA reauthorization or some of these other wacky ideas that seem to come to light. I believe in this nation, if 75% of all the people voted, I think all the things would be better. See, I have such confidence in the intelligence of the majority. But what happens is we're not turning them out. And when 35% of the people turn out for election, you're talking about 16% determine the direction. I think there's at least 16% of wackos on any topic in America. And that's okay, this is America. But we don't want to be ruled by a very small minority. So thank you for your kind attention, and thank you for allowing me to come to Hillsborough and experience a wonderful thing. And I did get lots of new stories that I could tell around the country. I may not tell everyone that you're the best. I don't know. That would be a tough message.
When you come back, you will tell it.
So anyway, thank you all. And thank you